20 signs you're burned out, not just lazy. Have you ever found yourself lying in bed, unable to muster the energy to get up, wondering if you are just being lazy? Maybe you feel like you are stuck in a fog, with no drive to tackle your daily tasks. It is easy to slap the label of laziness on these feelings. But what if something deeper is at play? Burnout, a state of complete emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion, often hides behind what looks like a lack of effort. Unlike laziness, which is more about avoiding work without distress, burnout stems from prolonged stress that overwhelms your ability to cope. It is not just a buzzword, it is a real condition that affects millions. Research from a few years ago suggested that around 3/4 of adults in the United States have felt burnout symptoms at some point, with many experiencing it severely enough to disrupt their lives. This is not about being unmotivated by choice. It is about your mind and body hitting a breaking point. Burnout can creep into your work, your hobbies, your relationships, and even your sense of self, leaving you feeling like a shadow of who you used to be. The good news? Recognizing burnout is the first step to overcoming it. In this video, we are diving deep into 20 clear indicators that what you are experiencing is not laziness, but burnout. These signs will help you understand what is happening, why it is happening, and how to start addressing it. Whether you are feeling disconnected, exhausted, or just not yourself, this video is here to shed light on what is going on and guide you toward recovery. Let's start by exploring the first 2 indicators of burnout, so you can begin to separate it from the misconception of laziness. Indicator 1, you feel disconnected from everything. Picture this. You are going through your day, but it feels like you are watching a movie of someone else's life. You are physically present, but emotionally and mentally, you are somewhere else, detached, numb, or even empty. This is called depersonalization, and it is a hallmark of burnout. It is not just feeling a bit off. It is a persistent sense that you are not fully in your own body or mind. You might sit through meetings, conversations, or even activities you used to enjoy, but it all feels hollow. This disconnection can make you feel like you are floating through life, unable to engage with the world around you. For example, you might be at a family dinner, but instead of laughing and connecting, you feel like an outsider looking in, unable to feel the warmth of the moment. This is not laziness. Lazy people might skip the dinner altogether and feel fine about it. Burnout, on the other hand, makes you show up but leaves you unable to connect. This happens because chronic stress overwhelms your brain's ability to process emotions and experiences, creating a protective barrier that numbs you to avoid further strain. Over time, this detachment can grow, making it harder to feel joy, sadness, or even anger. You might start to question who you are, or why nothing feels meaningful anymore. If this sounds familiar, it is a sign that burnout has taken hold, and it is time to pay attention to what your mind and body are telling you. Indicator 2. You used to be motivated. Think back to a time when you were full of energy, tackling projects, chasing goals, or excelling in something you cared about. Maybe you were the person who always went the extra mile at work, aced your studies, or poured your heart into a hobby. Now, that drive is gone. You feel apathetic, uninspired, and stuck, with no desire to push forward. This is not laziness. Laziness is a consistent trait where someone avoids effort without much distress. Burnout, however, is a shift. You were not always this way. You used to thrive on ambition and purpose. The change often comes from being overworked, overstressed, or stretched too thin for too long. For instance, imagine a teacher who once loved crafting lesson plans, but now dreads even opening their laptop. The passion is buried under exhaustion, not gone because of a lack of will. Burnout drains your internal fuel, leaving you feeling like you have nothing left to give. This can be especially painful because you might compare yourself to who you used to be, wondering why you cannot get it together. The truth is, burnout is not about a lack of discipline. It is about your system being overloaded. Chronic stress can alter how your brain handles motivation, making it harder to start or finish tasks. Recognizing this shift is crucial because it shows indicator 3. You have lost your passion. Imagine a time when something in your life made your heart race with excitement. It could have been a creative pursuit like writing poetry, a physical activity like running, or even your job, where you felt energized by solving problems. Now, when you think about those things, they feel heavy, unappealing, or even pointless. This loss of passion is a powerful sign of burnout, and it is different from laziness. Someone who is lazy might never have cared about those activities in the first place, shrugging them off without much thought. But with burnout, you are grieving the joy you used to feel. You might avoid the activities altogether, not because you want to, but because they drain you. For example, a graphic designer who once stayed up late perfecting their work might now stare at a blank screen, unable to start. This happens because prolonged stress saps your emotional energy, making it hard to connect with the things that once brought you fulfillment. Your brain, overwhelmed by constant demands, starts to shut down those connections to protect itself. Sometimes, this loss of passion can turn into something darker. You might feel bitter or angry toward the activity, blaming it for pushing you to your limits. For instance, an athlete might resent their sport for the grueling hours they put in, even if they once loved it. This resentment is a clue that burnout, not a lack of interest, is at play. Losing your passion can also make you feel like you have lost a part of your identity, leaving you questioning what matters to you anymore. This is not about being unmotivated by choice. It is about your system being so overloaded that it cannot access the spark that once drove you. Recognizing this change is critical because it shows that your disconnection from what you love is a symptom of burnout, not a permanent shift in who you are. Indicator 4. You are moody and irritable. Have you found yourself getting annoyed at the smallest things, like a slow internet connection or a friend's harmless comment? Maybe you snap at people without meaning to, or you feel like your emotions are all over the place, swinging from frustration to anger in moments. This moodiness and irritability are telltale signs of burnout, and they set it apart from laziness. People who are lazy tend to be calm, unbothered, and even indifferent, often letting things slide without much reaction. Burnout, on the other hand, makes you feel like you are walking on a tightrope, ready to lose your balance at any moment. You might notice this in everyday situations, like getting disproportionately upset when someone cuts you off in traffic, or feeling rage over a minor work email. This happens because chronic stress keeps your body in a heightened state, pumping out stress hormones like cortisol that mess with your ability to stay calm. Over time, this constant tension makes it harder to regulate your emotions, so even small triggers can set you off. For example, a parent who was once patient might find themselves yelling at their kids over spilled juice, then feeling guilty afterward. This emotional roller coaster can make you feel like you are not yourself, which adds to the weight of burnout. It can also affect your relationships, as loved ones might wonder why you are so on edge or take your reactions personally. The key difference here is that this irritability is new. If you were once level-headed and easygoing, this shift points to burnout rather than a personality trait. Understanding this can help you see that your short temper is not a flaw, but a signal that your mental and emotional reserves are running low. Indicator 5. You have neglected self-care. Have you stopped taking care of yourself the way you used to? Maybe you skip meals, barely sleep, or cannot remember the last time you showered or dressed in something other than sweatpants. This neglect of self-care is a major sign of burnout, and it is far more serious than laziness. Someone who is lazy might choose comfort over effort, like lounging instead of exercising, but they usually do not feel distressed about it. Burnout, however, makes even basic self-care feel like climbing a mountain. You might notice changes in your habits, eating junk food because cooking feels too hard, staying up late because your mind will not quiet down, or avoiding grooming because you cannot muster the energy. For example, someone who once enjoyed morning runs and healthy breakfasts might now survive on coffee and snacks, barely leaving their couch. This happens because burnout depletes your mental and physical resources, leaving you too exhausted to prioritize yourself. Chronic stress can disrupt your body's natural rhythms, like hunger or sleep cues, making it harder to maintain healthy habits. You might also withdraw socially, avoiding friends or family because even a short conversation feels overwhelming. This withdrawal is not about wanting to be alone, it is about having nothing left to give. Neglecting self-care can spiral, making you feel worse about yourself and deepening the burnout. You might look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back, which can spark feelings of shame or hopelessness. The difference here is that you are not always like this. If you once took pride in your appearance or health, this shift is a red flag that burnout is taking a toll. Recognizing this sign is crucial because it shows that your neglect is not a lack of willpower, but a cry for relief from overwhelming stress. Indicator 6. Changes happened gradually. Burnout does not hit you like a lightning bolt. It creeps in slowly, building over time until you are in its grip. This gradual onset is a key indicator that you are dealing with burnout rather than laziness. A lazy person might consistently avoid effort without much change in their behavior over time, often feeling content with their choices. But with burnout, you can look back and see a slow decline in your energy, mood, and engagement. For instance, you might remember a time when you were excited about your job, but over months or years, stress piled up, maybe from long hours, tight deadlines, or personal pressures. And now you dread going to work. This progression often follows stages, starting with manageable stress that you push through, then moving to chronic stress where you feel stretched thin, and finally reaching full-blown burnout where exhaustion feels permanent. Each stage chips away at your ability to cope, making it harder to notice until you are deep in it. For example, a nurse might start by feeling tired after long shifts, then begin skipping social plans to recover, and eventually feel completely detached from their patients, unable to care the way they used to. This slow buildup can make burnout hard to spot because you might dismiss early signs as normal stress or temporary fatigue. By the time you realize something is wrong, you might be struggling with intense mental and physical exhaustion that feels impossible to shake. Understanding that these changes happened gradually can help you see that burnout is not your fault. It is the result of prolonged, unaddressed stress that has accumulated over time. This perspective is vital because it encourages you to seek help early, before burnout becomes deeply embedded in your life. Indicator 7. You are constantly exhausted. Have you ever felt so tired that no amount of sleep seems to help? You might drag yourself out of bed, feeling like you have not rested at all, or find that even a full night's sleep leaves you drained. This constant exhaustion is a major sign of burnout, and it goes far beyond normal tiredness. Unlike laziness, where someone might choose to rest and feel fine about it, burnout makes you feel like you are running on empty no matter what you do. This exhaustion is not just physical, it seeps into your emotions and mind, making everything feel heavier. For example, a parent might feel too worn out to play with their kids, even after a weekend of doing nothing. Or an office worker might struggle to get through a single email without feeling overwhelmed. This happens because chronic stress keeps your body in a heightened state, constantly releasing stress hormones like cortisol that disrupt your ability to recover. Over time, this wears down your energy reserves, leaving you in a state of persistent fatigue. You might try to push through, thinking a nap or a vacation will fix it, but the exhaustion lingers. This can also affect your immune system, making you more prone to colds or other illnesses as your body struggles to keep up. Unlike someone who is lazy and might feel refreshed after a break, burnout's exhaustion feels like a weight you cannot shake. You might even start to dread activities you once handled easily, like cooking dinner or meeting a friend, because they feel like impossible tasks. This is not about lacking motivation. It is about your body and mind signaling that they have been pushed too far for too long. Recognizing this constant exhaustion as a sign of burnout is important because it shows that your fatigue is not a personal failing, but a response to overwhelming stress that needs attention. Indicator 8. You struggle with focus. Do you find it hard to concentrate on even simple tasks? Maybe you sit down to work but end up staring at your screen, unable to start. Or you read the same sentence over and over without it sinking in. This struggle with focus is a clear indicator of burnout, and it sets it apart from laziness. A lazy person might avoid tasks altogether, often without distress, but burnout makes it feel like your brain is stuck in a fog. You want to get things done, but your mind refuses to cooperate. For instance, a student might try to study for an exam, but find themselves rereading the same paragraph, unable to absorb anything, or a manager might forget important details in meetings they used to lead with ease. This happens because prolonged stress affects your brain's ability to process information, particularly in areas like the prefrontal cortex, which handles attention and decision-making. When you are burned out, your mental energy is so depleted that even small tasks, like responding to a text or organizing your desk, can feel overwhelming. You might also notice that you are easily distracted, jumping from one thing to another without finishing anything, or that making decisions, like choosing what to eat, feels impossible. This lack of focus can lead to mistakes, missed deadlines, or a sense that you are falling behind, which only adds to your stress. Unlike laziness, where someone might not care about the task in the first place, burnout makes you feel frustrated because you cannot perform the way you used to. This struggle is not about being scatterbrained or careless. It is a sign that your mental resources are stretched too thin. Understanding this can help you see that your difficulty focusing is a symptom of burnout, not a lack of effort, and it is a signal to take steps to recharge. Indicator 9. You feel cynical or negative. Have you noticed a shift in how you view the world, where everything seems pointless or doomed to fail? Maybe you used to approach your work or life with optimism, but now you find yourself expecting the worst or dismissing things as not worth the effort. This growing cynicism or negativity is a strong sign of burnout, and it is very different from laziness. Someone who is lazy might avoid tasks without much emotional investment, often staying neutral or indifferent. Burnout, however, taints your perspective with a sense of hopelessness or bitterness. For example, a teacher who once believed in inspiring their students might now think their efforts are wasted because nothing changes. Or an entrepreneur might scoff at new opportunities, convinced they will fail. This happens because chronic stress wears down your ability to see the positive, leaving you focused on what is wrong or unfair. Your brain, overwhelmed by prolonged pressure, starts to protect itself by lowering expectations, which can manifest as sarcasm, distrust, or a why bother attitude. You might catch yourself making snarky comments about your job like, "This place is a mess anyway," or feeling resentful toward colleagues or responsibilities you once valued. This negativity can spill into other areas of your life, making you skeptical about relationships or personal goals. Unlike laziness, which does not typically involve such emotional weight, burnout's cynicism comes with a sense of frustration or disillusionment. You might even feel guilty for being so negative, especially if you were once hopeful or enthusiastic. This shift can make you feel disconnected from the person you used to be, adding to the emotional toll of burnout. Recognizing this cynicism as a sign of burnout is crucial because it shows that your negative outlook is not your true self, but a response to being overwhelmed. It is a signal to step back and address the stress that is clouding your perspective. Indicator 10. Your productivity has plummeted. Do you feel like you are working harder, but getting less done? Maybe tasks that used to take you an hour now drag on all day, or you cannot seem to finish anything without struggling. This drop in productivity is a clear indicator of burnout, and it sets it apart from laziness. A lazy person might avoid work altogether, often without caring about the outcome, but burnout makes you feel like you are spinning your wheels despite your efforts. For instance, a writer who once churned out articles with ease might now spend hours staring at a blank page. Or a salesperson might make calls, but fail to close deals they used to handle effortlessly. This happens because burnout exhausts your mental and emotional resources, making it harder to organize thoughts, prioritize tasks, or maintain momentum. Chronic stress can impair your brain's executive functions, like planning and problem solving, leaving you less efficient. You might start a task, get distracted, or second-guess yourself, which stretches even simple jobs into marathons. This can lead to a cycle of frustration. You know you are not performing at your best, which makes you feel worse, which then makes it even harder to get things done. Unlike laziness, where someone might not mind skipping work, burnout comes with a sense of guilt or anxiety about falling behind. You might stay late at the office or take work home, only to accomplish little, which deepens your exhaustion. This drop in productivity can also affect how others see you. Coworkers or bosses might wonder why your output has slowed, which can add external pressure. The key here is that this is not your normal performance. If you were once capable and efficient, this change points to burnout, not a lack of effort. Understanding this can help you see that your struggle is not about being incompetent, but about needing relief from overwhelming stress. Indicator 11. You experience physical symptoms. Have you started noticing aches, pains, or other physical issues that seem to come out of nowhere? Maybe you get frequent headaches, feel tension in your shoulders, or catch colds more often than usual. These physical symptoms are a significant sign of burnout, and they distinguish it from laziness. Someone who is lazy might skip tasks to relax, often feeling physically fine. But burnout takes a toll on your body as much as your mind. You might wake up with a tight jaw from grinding your teeth at night, or feel a constant knot in your stomach that makes eating difficult. For example, a software developer might start getting migraines after long coding sessions, even though they never had them before. Or a teacher might feel back pain from the stress of managing a classroom. This happens because chronic stress triggers your body's fight or flight response, flooding it with hormones like cortisol and adrenaline that, over time, cause wear and tear. These hormones can disrupt your sleep, weaken your immune system, or cause muscle tension, leading to a range of symptoms. You might also experience digestive issues, like nausea or heartburn, or feel a racing heart even when you are sitting still. Unlike laziness, where physical health is not typically affected, burnout symptoms can make daily life harder, as you are not just tired, but physically unwell. You might try to ignore these signs, thinking they are just stress or aging, but they often worsen if burnout is not addressed. These physical changes can also make you feel more vulnerable as you realize your body is struggling to keep up with your demands. The key here is that these symptoms are new or more intense than before. If you were once healthy and active, this shift points to burnout. Recognizing these physical signs is vital because they show that your stress is not just mental, but is impacting your entire system, signaling a need for rest and recovery. Indicator 12. You feel overwhelmed by small tasks. Do simple tasks, like answering an email or doing the dishes, feel like insurmountable challenges? Maybe you look at your to-do list and feel paralyzed, unable to start even the smallest item. This sense of being overwhelmed by small tasks is a clear indicator of burnout, and it is very different from laziness. A lazy person might avoid tasks because they do not feel like doing them, often without much distress. But burnout makes even minor responsibilities feel like mountains. For instance, a parent might stare at a pile of laundry and feel so daunted that they walk away, or an office worker might put off replying to a single message for days because it feels too big. This happens because chronic stress overloads your mental capacity, making it hard to break tasks into manageable steps. Your brain, exhausted from constant pressure, struggles to prioritize or process information, so even routine chores seem complex and exhausting. You might also feel a sense of dread or anxiety about these tasks, worrying that you will mess them up or that they will take more energy than you have. Unlike laziness, where someone might shrug off responsibilities without much thought, burnout comes with a heavy emotional weight. You want to get things done but feel stuck. This can lead to procrastination, not because you are careless, but because your system is overwhelmed. Over time, this can create a backlog of unfinished tasks, which adds to your stress and makes you feel even more incapable. You might compare yourself to others who seem to handle these tasks easily, wondering why you cannot keep up. The difference here is that you are not always this way. If you once managed your responsibilities with ease, this change is a sign of burnout. Understanding this can help you see that your overwhelm is not about being weak, but about needing a break from the relentless demands that have depleted your energy.
All right, it's 1:24. I know you ain't
lost
sleep.
confidence. Have you started doubting yourself in ways you never did before? Maybe you question your skills at work, feel unsure about decisions, or think you are not good enough, even in areas where you used to shine. This loss of confidence is a powerful sign of burnout, and it sets it apart from laziness. Someone who is lazy might not care about their performance or avoid tasks without feeling bad about it. But burnout erodes your self-belief, leaving you second-guessing everything. For example, a graphic designer who once trusted their creative instincts might now hesitate to submit work fearing it is not up to par. Or a parent might feel like they are failing their kids even over small things like forgetting a school event. This happens because chronic stress chips away at your sense of competence, making you hyper-aware of mistakes or shortcomings. When you are burned out, your brain is so overwhelmed that it amplifies self-criticism, turning minor setbacks into proof that you are not capable. You might compare yourself to others or to your past self, wondering why you cannot keep up anymore. This loss of confidence can make you withdraw from challenges, not because you do not want to try, but because you are afraid of failing. Unlike laziness, which does not typically involve self-doubt, burnout's impact on your confidence comes with a deep emotional sting. You feel like you are letting yourself or others down, This can also affect how you interact with people, as you might avoid speaking up in meetings or sharing ideas, fearing they will not be good enough. The key here is that this insecurity is new. If you were once self-assured and capable, this shift points to burnout. Recognizing this loss of confidence as a symptom of burnout is crucial because it shows that your self-doubt is not a reflection of your worth, but a result of being stretched too thin for too long. It is a signal to give yourself grace and seek support to rebuild your belief in yourself. Indicator 14. You are emotionally fragile. Do you find yourself tearing up over small things, like a kind word from a friend or a minor frustration at work? Maybe you feel like you are on the verge of breaking down, with emotions bubbling up unexpectedly. This emotional fragility is a clear indicator of burnout, and it is very different from laziness. A lazy person might be emotionally steady, often unbothered by their choices to avoid effort, but burnout makes you feel raw and vulnerable, like your emotions are right at the surface. For instance, a nurse might cry after a patient thanks them, not because they are sad, but because their emotions feel so intense. Or an office worker might feel overwhelmed with anger over a printer jam that would have been a minor annoyance before. This happens because chronic stress wears down your emotional resilience, leaving you less able to cope with everyday ups and downs. Your brain, flooded with stress hormones, struggles to regulate feelings, so even small triggers can lead to big reactions. You might feel embarrassed or confused by these outbursts, especially if you were once calm and composed. This fragility can also make you more sensitive to criticism or rejection, as your emotional defenses are low. Unlike laziness, where emotional stability is not typically affected, burnout's emotional fragility comes with a sense of being out of control, which can be frightening. You might try to hide these feelings, putting on a brave face, but that only adds to your exhaustion. This can also strain relationships, as you might snap at loved ones or pull away to avoid showing how vulnerable you feel. The difference here is that this emotional sensitivity is a change. If you were once steady and resilient, this shift is a sign of burnout. Understanding this can help you see that your emotional fragility is not a weakness, but a signal that your mental and emotional reserves are depleted, urging you to seek rest and care. Indicator 15. You avoid responsibilities. Have you started dodging tasks or obligations that you used to handle without a second thought? Maybe you let emails pile up, skip meetings, or put off chores, not because you do not care, but because they feel too heavy to face. This avoidance of responsibilities is a significant sign of burnout, and it is distinct from laziness. Someone who is lazy might skip tasks out of preference, often feeling unbothered by the consequences. But burnout makes you avoid responsibilities because they overwhelm you. For example, a small business owner might delay responding to client inquiries, even though they know it could hurt their business, or a student might skip assignments, feeling paralyzed by the thought of starting. This happens because chronic stress drains your mental energy, making it hard to tackle even routine obligations. Your brain, overloaded from constant demands, starts to shut down when faced with more tasks, leading to procrastination or outright avoidance. You might feel a knot in your stomach when you think about these responsibilities, or you might distract yourself with mindless activities like scrolling on your phone to escape the pressure. Unlike laziness, where avoidance is often carefree, burnout's avoidance comes with guilt or anxiety. You know you need to act but feel stuck. This can create a vicious cycle as unaddressed tasks pile up, increasing your stress and making you feel even more incapable. You might also worry about letting others down, like coworkers or family, which adds to the emotional weight. The key here is that this behavior is new. If you were once reliable and proactive, this shift points to burnout. Recognizing this avoidance as a symptom of burnout is crucial because it shows that your reluctance is not about being irresponsible, but about being so overwhelmed that your system is struggling to cope. It is a sign to slow down and address the stress that is pushing you to retreat. Indicator 16. You feel trapped. Do you ever feel like you are stuck in a cage, unable to escape your job, routine, or life circumstances? Maybe you dread waking up each day, not because you dislike your life, but because it feels like there is no way out of the pressure. This sense of feeling trapped is a powerful indicator of burnout, and it is very different from laziness. A lazy person might coast through life without much distress, often content to avoid effort, but burnout makes you feel like you are suffocating under the weight of your responsibilities. For instance, a corporate employee might feel chained to their desk, dreaming of quitting but unable to see a way out. Or a caregiver might feel locked into their role, unable to take a break without guilt. This happens because chronic stress narrows your perspective, making it hard to imagine alternatives or solutions. Your brain, exhausted from constant strain, starts to focus on the barriers, financial pressures, expectations, or fear of change, rather than possibilities. You might fantasize about running away or starting over, but those thoughts often feel unrealistic, leaving you stuck in a mental loop. Unlike laziness, where someone might not mind their situation, burnout's sense of being trapped comes with a deep sense of helplessness or despair. You might feel like no matter what you do, things will not get better, which can sap your motivation to even try. This feeling can also make you resent your circumstances, like hating a job you once enjoyed, or feeling bitter about obligations you used to embrace. The difference here is that this sense of entrapment is a change. If you once felt in control of your life, this shift is a sign of burnout. Understanding this can help you see that your feeling of being stuck is not a permanent state, but a symptom of burnout's toll on your mental clarity, urging you to seek support and explore small steps to regain a sense of freedom. Indicator 17. You have stopped setting goals. Have you stopped dreaming about the future or planning for what comes next? Maybe you used to set ambitious goals, like advancing in your career, learning a new skill, or even planning a vacation, but now you cannot muster the energy to think beyond today. This cessation of goal setting is a significant sign of burnout, and it is distinct from laziness. Someone who is lazy might not bother with goals, but often feels content with drifting along, unbothered by the lack of direction. Burnout, however, robs you of the ability to envision a future worth working toward, leaving you stuck in a survival mode where just getting through the day feels like enough. For example, a marketing professional who once aimed for a promotion might now focus only on meeting minimum deadlines, or a fitness enthusiast might abandon plans to run a marathon, settling for the bare minimum to get by. This happens because chronic stress depletes your mental bandwidth, making it hard to engage in the forward thinking and planning that goal setting requires. Your brain, overwhelmed by constant demands, shifts into a protective state, prioritizing immediate survival over long-term aspirations. You might feel a pang of sadness or guilt when you think about your old ambitions, knowing they are still important but feeling too exhausted to pursue them. Unlike laziness, where the absence of goals might not cause distress, burnout's lack of goal setting comes with a sense of loss. You know you are capable of more, but cannot access that drive. This can also make you feel disconnected from your sense of purpose, as if life is just a series of tasks to endure, rather than a journey to shape. The difference here is that this is a change. If you were once driven by goals and dreams, this shift points to burnout. Recognizing this as a symptom of burnout is crucial because it shows that your lack of ambition is not a character flaw, but a result of being mentally and emotionally drained, signaling a need to rest and reconnect with what matters to you. Indicator 18. You feel guilty for resting. Do you feel uneasy or anxious when you try to take a break, as if you are doing something wrong by not being productive? Maybe you sit down to watch a movie or nap, but end up worrying about all the things you should be doing instead. This guilt about resting is a clear indicator of burnout, and it is very different from laziness. A lazy person might embrace rest without a second thought, enjoying the downtime without remorse, but burnout traps you in a cycle where rest feels like a failure. For instance, a freelancer might try to take a day off but spend it stressing about unanswered emails, or a parent might feel selfish for reading a book instead of cleaning the house. This happens because chronic stress creates a mindset where productivity becomes your only measure of worth. Your brain, conditioned by relentless demands, starts to equate rest with wasting time, even when you desperately need it. This guilt can make relaxation impossible. You might physically stop working, but mentally keep running through your to-do list, unable to switch off. Unlike laziness, where rest is often a choice made without conflict, burnout's guilt comes with a heavy emotional toll. You want to rest, but feel like you do not deserve it. This can lead to a vicious cycle, as avoiding rest deepens your exhaustion, making burnout worse. You might also notice that this guilt is tied to unrealistic expectations, like believing you should always be on, or comparing yourself to others who seem to handle more. The key here is that this guilt is new. If you once enjoyed downtime without overthinking, this shift is a sign of burnout. Understanding this can help you see that your guilt is not about being lazy, but about a stress-driven mindset that is punishing you for needing a break, urging you to prioritize recovery without judgment. Indicator 19. Your relationships are strained. Have you noticed tension creeping into your interactions with friends, family, or colleagues? Maybe you snap at your partner over small things, avoid calls from friends, or feel distant from people you used to be close with. This strain on relationships is a critical sign of burnout, and it is far removed from laziness. Someone who is lazy might skip social plans without much emotional fallout, often feeling fine about staying in their own bubble. Burnout, however, disrupts your ability to connect, making relationships feel like another source of pressure rather than a source of joy. For example, a teacher might become short-tempered with their spouse because they are mentally drained from work, or a friend might stop showing up to group outings, not because they do not care, but because socializing feels exhausting. This happens because chronic stress saps your emotional energy, leaving you with less patience and empathy for others. Your brain, overwhelmed by constant demands, struggles to handle the give and take of relationships, so you might withdraw to conserve what little energy you have. You might also feel irritable, causing you to lash out over minor issues, like a coworker's comment or a child's mess, only to regret it later. This strain can lead to misunderstandings, as loved ones might think you are pulling away intentionally, when really, you are just too depleted to engage. Unlike laziness, where social avoidance is often carefree, burnout's impact on relationships comes with guilt or sadness. You miss the connection but feel unable to bridge the gap. You might also notice that you are less present in conversations, nodding along but not really listening, which can make others feel ignored. The difference here is that this disconnection is new. If you were once warm and engaged with others, this shift points to burnout. A study from a few years ago found that burnout can significantly affect interpersonal relationships, with many people reporting increased conflict or isolation as stress takes over. Recognizing this strain as a symptom of burnout is vital because it shows that your relationship struggles are not about being a bad friend, partner, or colleague, but about being so emotionally drained that you cannot show up the way you want to. It is a signal to seek support and communicate with loved ones about what you are going through so they can understand and help you through it. Indicator 20. You are numb to success. Do you find that achievements, big or small, no longer bring the satisfaction they used to? Maybe you get a promotion, finish a project, or hit a personal milestone, but instead of feeling proud, you just shrug it off or feel nothing at all. This numbness to success is a profound sign of burnout, and it is starkly different from laziness. A lazy person might not chase achievements in the first place, often content with minimal effort, but burnout dulls your ability to feel joy or pride in what you accomplish. For instance, a chef who once beamed with pride over a perfect dish might now plate it without a second thought. Or a student who aces an exam might feel indifferent instead of relieved. This happens because chronic stress desensitizes your brain's reward system, making it hard to experience the dopamine-driven highs that come with success. Your mind, worn out from constant pressure, stops registering wins as meaningful, leaving you with a sense of emptiness even when you should be celebrating. You might go through the motions, accepting praise or checking off tasks, but inside, it feels hollow, like you are just going through a checklist rather than living a moment of triumph. Unlike laziness, where someone might not care about success, burnout's numbness comes with a quiet grief. You know you should feel something, but you cannot. This can make you question your purpose, or wonder why you are working so hard if nothing feels rewarding. You might also feel disconnected from others' excitement, like when colleagues celebrate a team win, but you cannot muster the enthusiasm to join in. The difference here is that this apathy is a change. If you were once motivated by achievements, this shift is a sign of burnout. Understanding this numbness as a symptom of burnout is crucial because it shows that your lack of excitement is not about being ungrateful or unmotivated, but about a brain so overwhelmed that it cannot process joy. It is a call to step back, rest, and reconnect with what makes you feel alive, so you can rediscover the spark that success once brought. Burnout is not laziness. It is your mind and body signaling they are overwhelmed. These 20 indicators, from disconnection to strained relationships, show how stress can dim your energy and joy. You are not failing, you are human. Start small, set boundaries, rest without guilt, or talk to a friend or professional. Recovery is possible with self-compassion and support. You deserve to feel alive again. If this video helped you understand burnout, like it, comment your thoughts, and share it with someone who might need it. Subscribe and hit the bell for more mental health insights. Thanks for watching.